Today is a big day for me because I'm at home, surrounded by walls full of memories. Jack is here too, looking so proud and happy. He's exploring the rooms with excitement, and I can't help but feel his energy rubbing off on me. We're in the main part of my family's house, the place where my dad's dreams came true. My dad worked really hard to make this place amazing, and now it's worth a whopping $100 million. It's like his legacy, something he left behind for me when he passed away. Now, without my dad by my side, my husband wants a piece of our family's legacy. He insists that what used to be mine alone should now belong to both of us. But I know better. I have proof. Papers with my name, Sarah, as the rightful owner. At 42, I work in the digital world, thanks to my job at an online bank. This career wasn't just a whim, it was shaped by the values my parents taught me about money management. They showed me how important it is to be responsible with finances, lessons I still carry with me today. Growing up with money, my parents taught me to respect it and not take it for granted. Despite our wealth, they made sure I didn't grow up spoiled. My allowance was just like everyone else's, and we didn't eat fancy meals all the time. I went to a regular public school, not some fancy private one. But somehow, rumors about us being super rich spread anyway. People thought my life was all about luxury and fun because of our big house and money. Sarah, with your huge house and all your money, life must be easy, right? You must have all the cool gadgets and games. Can we come over and play? People often asked me these questions, thinking I had everything. But the truth was, my life wasn't as extravagant as they thought. I didn't have the newest toys or gaming consoles, but people still assumed I did. Sometimes it felt like everyone just wanted to be my friend because of my family's money. Sarah, you're rich, right? Can you lend me some money? People asking for money always made me uneasy. It felt like they didn't understand the values my parents taught me. Then, I got into a tough spot when I accidentally broke Maria's gaming console. I didn't have any money at that moment, which made things even worse. Around the same time, Julie and I became classmates. She asked if I had told my parents about the accident, but I was too scared of disappointing them to say anything. I can't tell them. They might get mad. That's why I'm asking you, Sarah, she confessed. Saying no felt awful, especially since I didn't want things to be awkward at school. But my parents were clear about not lending money, so I had to apologize to Julie and explain that I couldn't help. After I couldn't help Julie, she ended up crying. And soon rumors started flying around. People accused me of not helping a friend in need, even though my family was well off. I tried to explain that I didn't have any money to spare, but it didn't seem to matter. Then, Maria said something that really hurt. She suggested that I cared more about money than friendship. Things got worse when Maria and Julie started spreading lies, saying I owed them money and refused to pay for the broken console. The school found out the truth eventually and scolded Maria and Julie. But instead of stopping, the rumors got worse and even reached my parents. My dad decided to deal with it and organized a meeting with their families. Even though they said sorry, I decided to stay away from Maria and Julie after that. I still had to deal with their looks and whispers, but at least there were no more direct confrontations. During dinner that night, my dad shared advice that stuck with me for years. He said it's important to stand by your decisions, especially when it comes to money. Sarah, it's okay to say no, he said with a smile. You don't have to tell anyone about your finances. If someone keeps asking, just say you'll have to check with your parents, even if you know you can't lend money. This lesson about handling money matters gracefully and firmly became really important to me. As I grew up, I became more careful about who I let into my life, focusing on friendships based on character, not money. After university, I made sure to keep my work and personal life separate, avoiding any financial complications. This whole experience taught me the importance of setting boundaries in both friendships and finances, and it's shaped who I am today. When I was 35, I met Jack through a friend, and despite him being a bit younger, his genuine personality quickly won me over. We started casually dating, and before long, it turned into something serious. 2 years later, we had a beautiful wedding, which made my parents really happy. After we'd been married for about a month, my dad suggested that Jack come over to our house. I trusted Jack, but I was worried that he might accidentally reveal some private family stuff because he loves to talk. Still, after a month of marriage, I felt ready to let him in on everything about my family. So I invited him to visit my parents' house. Jack was amazed when he saw my family's house. His surprise was obvious, showing that he hadn't realized how well off my family was. Even though the visit went well, Jack couldn't stop asking about our money on the way home. I didn't know much about our finances myself, so his questions made me feel uneasy. A few months after we got married, my mom called to tell me that my dad was in the hospital. It was a shock, especially since I didn't know he was having health problems. Thinking back to our last visit, I remembered how he didn't seem well, and now I felt really worried and guilty. When I went to the hospital with my mom that Saturday, my dad tried to stay cheerful, but we could tell he was feeling down. He apologized for what he saw as a burden to us, showing his gentle nature. Then the doctors told us he had advanced pancreatic cancer, and it had spread too much for surgery. It was like a punch to the gut. We couldn't believe someone as health-conscious as my dad could get so sick. After the diagnosis, my dad stayed strong. He just wanted us to be happy, which made us all tear up. I wanted to spend every moment with him, but hospital rules meant only close family could visit. He wished for our friends to be around to make happy memories at home, which reminded us of the life he wanted for us. So I promised to keep our home full of joy, even after he was gone. Keeping that promise became really important to me. I decided to renovate our family home, something to focus on during such a tough time. Jack, always caring, worried about how much I was doing for my dad, not realizing the other stuff I was dealing with, like our family's estate issues that I hadn't told him about. When Jack asked about my dad's health, I finally opened up to him about everything we were going through. It was a relief to have the support while juggling work, hospital visits, and all the emotions. However, things got tense when Jack started asking about my dad's money and the family estate. He even suggested getting legal advice, just in case something happened to my mom too. It brought up painful memories for me. My dad had a lawyer he trusted, but Jack's insistence on being cautious with money started causing problems between us. A few months later, my dad passed away after bravely battling his illness. Then, the discussions about inheritance started within the family. I ended up getting a big house worth $5.5 million. But Jack's growing interest in the inheritance, despite me trying to keep him out of it, made things even harder. He was excited about moving into the mansion and kept asking about financial stuff, which caught me off guard. I later found out he'd been talking to my cousin at the funeral, who mentioned how the house would be a waste if it stayed empty. That just made things more complicated. Despite my attempts to explain to Jack that the inheritance wasn't something we shared, he didn't seem to listen. Our relationship started getting more hostile because of it. Even though he was there at my dad's funeral, Jack didn't help out with the memorial services or the legal stuff that followed. As things started to settle down and life went on, Jack dropped a bombshell. He said he changed the ownership of my family home to his name, and he had legal papers to prove it. I was shocked and hurt. Not only did he break my trust, but it also showed a huge lack of respect for our relationship and the boundaries we had. Dealing with inheritance issues brought up bigger problems in our marriage. We had to rethink what we valued, how much we trusted each other, and where our relationship was headed. When Jack told me he changed the ownership of our family home without telling me, I was shocked and hurt. He said he was tired of our marriage and suggested we live together as roommates in the house, with him not giving me much financial support. He even threatened divorce if I didn't agree, which was a lot to take in on top of everything else. I begged him to think about what he was doing and why he made such a big decision without talking to me. He said he'd talked to a lawyer about changing the ownership without my permission. Things got so bad that divorce seemed like the only way out. I was heartbroken and lost, feeling like I had to distance myself from the home and life I'd shared with Jack. I couldn't understand why he'd do something like this, and it felt like money had changed and for the worse. The next day, Jack demanded the house keys, saying the house was his now. This just made things worse. He tried to get into the house, but security stopped him. I showed them the real ownership papers, proving the house was mine because of my dad. Seeing the proof, Jack was shocked. He trusted a guy named Jerry to help him with legal stuff, and Jerry had lied to him. Jack had even given Jerry $360,000 to change the ownership, but it turned out to be a scam. Jack was really upset. He kept trying to call Jerry, but Jerry wouldn't answer. Jack was mad at him for tricking him and taking his money. Then he turned his anger on me, saying I spent too much money on things he thought were unnecessary. He even questioned if I understood how inheritance stuff worked. Even though Jack tried to fix things and suggested we give our marriage another chance, the trust between us was too broken. I asked the security guard to help him leave, closing a painful chapter of my life. In the months that followed, I had time to think about everything that happened. It made me realize how important trust and honesty are in a relationship. What happened with Jack, all the lies and betrayal, taught me to be careful not to let money cloud my judgment. During my dad's first memorial service at our family temple, Jack showed up unexpectedly. Since our divorce, things hadn't been going well for him. He didn't have a job, he had money problems, and it seemed like the people he trusted had let him down. He looked really sad and lost, standing there in contrast to the solemn occasion. As he tearfully tried to apologize, his actions unintentionally disrupted the memorial, causing a commotion among my relatives. Despite his emotional distress, I had to ask him to leave, and security had to step in to make sure it happened. It was a difficult moment, especially during such a solemn occasion, leaving me with mixed emotions, but also a strong desire to move forward and leave our past behind. I decided it was time to leave my parents' home, something I'd been planning for a while. I found a new place to live, cutting ties with Jack for good. Meanwhile, Jack kept coming to the family property, which we had turned into a rental villa. My mom and I ran the villa together, turning it into a happy place for many people to visit and enjoy. On his side, Jack seemed to be trying to make positive changes. He got a new job and was really focused on starting over. Turning our family home into a rental villa not only honored my dad's vision, but also created a welcoming place for guests from all walks of life. The villa, known for its stunning views and beautiful garden, became really popular. We hosted all sorts of events there, from small weddings to big family parties. Working on it with my mom brought us even closer and made us really happy. As the villa became more successful, we decided to add more stuff to make it even better. We put in a swimming pool, a cozy outdoor lounge, and a fun area for kids to play. We were really committed to making sure our guests had an amazing time, and it paid off. The villa became a top spot for people looking for a peaceful getaway and unforgettable experiences. This whole project wasn't just about making money. It was about making my dad's dream come true and creating special memories for our guests. Taking care of the villa's garden filled me with a deep sense of happiness. Seeing our family home turned into a place where people could come together, have fun, and make lasting memories made me really proud. I could almost imagine my father looking down with pride at what we had accomplished, bringing his dream to life. This venture not only fulfilled his vision, but also gave us financial stability and a sense of freedom. Along the way, I learned important lessons about trust, money, and the strength needed to forge my own path, separate from the challenges of the past. In this journey of self-discovery, I discovered that facing difficulties can actually make you stronger and more determined. I heard news about Jack from friends, and it seemed like he was turning his life around, finding a meaningful job and learning from his mistakes. Seeing his progress gave me a sense of peace, knowing that both of us were moving forward and growing. My father's dream became a driving force for growth, not just for me and my mom, but for everyone who visited the rental villa. It became a place of joy and celebration, a sanctuary where people could create lasting memories. The success of the villa is a testament to my father's vision, reminding us of the values of resilience and hard work. Through this venture, we've created more than just a place to stay. It's a source of happiness, a place for making memories, and proof that dreaming big and putting in the effort can lead to incredible things. Hi, everyone. I'm Emily, a 28-year-old marketing specialist. I just returned from 2 years working abroad in London. Stepping into my childhood home after all that time felt off. The warm, familiar scent of Mom's cooking was gone, replaced by something I couldn't quite place: control. Lillian, my younger sister, had somehow assumed the role of house manager while I was away. "You can't eat that, Mom. It's not good for your heart." Lillian's voice echoed from the kitchen. "I've prepared a special meal just for you," she continued as I quietly stood in the doorway. "But honey, I'm craving my usual breakfast," Mom replied weakly. "Remember what the doctor said," Lillian insisted, setting down a bowl of oatmeal in front of Mom while tucking away the fresh groceries I'd glimpsed earlier. Some things never change, I thought. Lillian had always had to be in charge, just like when we were kids. "Emily, when did you get in?" Mom's face lit up, and she tried to rise for a hug. "Mom, sit down," Lillian scolded, pushing her gently back into the chair. You need to stay calm. No excitement, it's bad for your heart. Ignoring her, I leaned in to hug Mom anyway. The doctor said mild arrhythmia. Lillian, she's not made of glass. A flood of childhood memories washed over me. Lillian dictating what games we'd play, which TV shows we'd watch, always getting her way. Emily, don't upset your sister, was the constant refrain growing up. Now she was taking her bossy streak to a whole new level. Hey babe, I brought those supplements you asked for. A tall guy walked in, Kevin, Lillian's boyfriend. He seemed nice enough but looked uncomfortable as Lillian snatched the bag from his hands. Thanks, these are perfect for Mom's new diet plan, she said with a smirk. As she spoke, I noticed her discreetly slipping a pack of premium chocolate bars into her purse. Later that afternoon, I sat at the dining table, reviewing household bills scattered across it. Lillian, why are there so many withdrawals from Mom and Dad's account? I asked, holding up a bank statement. I'm managing their finances now, she replied flatly. They can't handle the stress of bills anymore. Snatching the papers from my hands, she added, besides, what would you know? You've been gone for 2 years. That evening, I met up with Maria, my old high school friend, at a local cafe. By some stroke of luck, she now worked at the same marketing firm where I'd just been hired. Girl, I can't believe Lillian's turned herself into some kind of house dictator, Maria said, stirring her coffee. When your mom mentioned her heart issues, Lillian swooped in like some self-appointed savior. She's always been controlling, I sighed. But this feels worse. Did you know she's handling their money now? Maria raised an eyebrow. That's not good. Remember how she handled the student council funds in high school? They had to audit everything after she graduated. I nodded, remembering a sharp pang in my chest. And now she's convinced Mom and Dad she's their guardian angel. Mom can't even make tea without her approval. Just be careful, Maria warned. Lillian has a way of flipping things around when you call her out. I know, I said, staring into my coffee, but I'm not the same person I was 2 years ago. I'm going to do something about this before it gets worse. The next morning, Lillian's authoritarian streak escalated. The kitchen is off limits after 7 p.m., she announced, installing a padlock on the refrigerator. And Mom, breakfast is only between 8 o'clock and 8:30. But I get hungry at night, Dad protested. Then eat more during your designated mealtimes, Lillian snapped, her tone brooking no argument. Later that day, while combing through Mom and Dad's bank statements, I spotted something alarming. A monthly $2,000 charge labeled household management fee. What's this? I demanded, confronting Lillian. That's for my services, she said coolly. Running this house isn't free, Emily. Not everyone gets to abandon their family to party in London. Party? I shot back. I was working. Watch your tone, she hissed. Wouldn't want Mom to hear about your college drinking escapades. Her heart might not handle it. By midweek, I found Dad in his study, looking troubled over a stack of business papers. Everything okay? I asked. The business is struggling, he admitted, his brow furrowed. But something's not adding up. The numbers don't make sense. Lillian's been helping with the bookkeeping. But Dad, let me help. I can look at the accounts, I pleaded. Before Dad could respond, Lillian burst into the room. Absolutely not. Dad's under enough stress. I'm handling everything. Later, when I tried to transfer money to help with bills, Lillian convinced them to reject it. We don't need your guilty conscience money, she snapped. One evening, I overheard Lillian berating Kevin in the backyard. You're useless. Can't even back me up when Emily questions things. Maybe she has a point about the kitchen rules, Kevin began cautiously. Shut up. You know nothing about family dynamics, Lillian shot back, her voice cold and cutting. Kevin must have noticed me watching because he looked away quickly when Lillian cornered me in the hallway later. Stay out of my business or I'll make sure Mom and Dad see you for the ungrateful child you are. Aunt Rachel's visit couldn't have come at a better time. Over dinner, Lillian refused to let Mom have a second helping. Since when do you control your mother's portions? Aunt Rachel asked, eyebrows raised. Since I became responsible for this family's well-being, Lillian replied smugly, unlike some people who just criticize. Later, Aunt Rachel pulled me aside. Something's not right here, Emily. Your mother seems afraid to speak. I know, I whispered. Lillian's taken over everything. When Lillian went out with Kevin the next day, I snuck into Dad's office. Scanning recent business records, my heart sank. I found multiple unauthorized transfers to Lillian's personal account. Look at these transactions, I said, showing Aunt Rachel. She's been stealing from Dad's business, Aunt Rachel said, frowning. That explains the new designer bags. But Emily, be careful. Lillian's telling relatives you're mentally unstable from your time abroad. She's saying you're jealous and trying to destroy the family. Of course she is, I muttered. She's laying the groundwork in case I expose her. She's even called your cousin, crying, saying you've had violent outbursts. Violent outbursts? I laughed bitterly. I've barely raised my voice. I believe you, Aunt Rachel said. But Lillian's playing a dangerous game. She's got your parents convinced only she can take care of them. She's not taking care of them, I said, gripping the evidence. She's controlling them. And now I can prove it. That evening, Kevin caught me outside work. We need to talk, he said. Lillian's not what you think. I found something on her laptop, documents from her old jobs. She's done this before. Done what? I asked, my stomach nodding. Financial fraud. She was fired from Jefferson Marketing for stealing client funds. Then from Citibank for manipulating accounts, even a tech company before that. She always targets people who trust her. I showed him my documentation. Like these transfers from Dad's business? Exactly, but there's more. She's planning something bigger. I overheard her talking about getting your parents to sign over the house. Aunt Rachel and I met with one of Lillian's former coworkers, Jenny. Over coffee, Jenny recounted her experience. She seemed so helpful at first, Jenny said, shaking her head. Offered to manage the office finances. By the time we discovered the missing money, she'd already moved on. At home, I noticed Lillian rushing to hide papers when I entered her room. Later, while she was showering, I found her diary tucked under the mattress. My hands shook as I read her words. Once the house is in my name, we can discuss assisted living options for Mom. Dad will be easier to handle once she's gone. I shared what I found with Aunt Rachel. She's not just controlling them, she's planning to get rid of them. We need to act now, Aunt Rachel said, gathering bank statements. This pattern is clear. She's been siphonning money for years. That evening, everything came to a head. Dad clutched his chest, reaching for his medication. You can't take those now. Lillian shouted, blocking the cabinet. It's not time. I need them, Dad gasped. Give him the pills, Lillian, I demanded, moving toward the cabinet. Stay back, you don't understand his condition. Stop it, Lillian, I saw your diary. I know everything. Her face went pale. You went through my things. Like you went through Dad's business accounts, or those 3 jobs you got fired from. Kevin stepped out from the hallway. It's over, Lillian. I found all the evidence on your laptop. You went through my computer, she hissed. How dare you? I had to, Kevin said. The transfers, the fraud, the plans for your parents, it's disgusting. You don't understand. I deserve this. I'm the one taking care of them. No, Kevin said firmly. You're exploiting them. We're done. And if you try anything, everything goes public. You can't prove anything, Lillian snarled. Actually, we can. I held up my phone. Jenny had a lot to say, and we got your diary, the bank records, and the emails. Lillian lunged for my phone, but Kevin blocked her. It's over, Lillian. Kevin headed for the door. Emily, I'll email you everything I found. Lillian, don't contact me again. Lillian's carefully constructed world crumbled as she stood there, shaking with rage. You'll regret this, she hissed. The dining table was littered with evidence as Aunt Rachel stood beside me for support. But she's been taking care of us, Mom said, her voice trembling. No, I said gently. She's been controlling you. Look at these nursing home applications she filled out. And these, I handed Dad the documents, are the papers to transfer the house into her name. Dad's face turned ashen as he reviewed the business accounts. All those missing funds. Before we could process the shock, the doorbell rang. A detective stood on the porch, flanked by one of Lillian's former employers. We're investigating allegations of financial exploitation, the detective said. Just then, Lillian burst through the door, her face a mask of indignation. What's going on? Miss Thompson, the detective said, stepping forward. We have statements from multiple victims of your financial fraud schemes. As the days passed, more people came forward. The tech company pressed charges. The bank launched its own investigation. Former clients shared their harrowing experiences. I trusted her with everything, one elderly client sobbed to a detective. She stole my life savings. Mom and Dad took immediate action. They canceled Lillian's access to all accounts, changed the locks, and began restoring their independence. Mom came to a painful realization. My heart condition. It was never as serious as she made it seem, was it? No, Mom, I said, holding her hand. She used it to control you. 3 months later, Lillian stood in our driveway, tears streaming down her face. Please, I've changed. I'll get help. I'll pay everything back. You can pay it back from jail, I said, closing the door firmly. Under proper management, Dad's business recovered. Mom began cooking her favorite recipes again, filling the house with a comforting sense of our childhood. Meanwhile, I thrived at work and earned a promotion. For the first time in years, our lives felt peaceful. Last week, a tear-stained letter arrived from Lillian. I'm your sister. Family forgives. I threw it away unopened. She's requesting a family visit. Aunt Rachel mentioned during Sunday dinner. Mom shook her head firmly, serving an extra portion of dessert, something Lillian would never have allowed. Some things can't be forgiven, she said. She chose control over family. Now she can live with those consequences. The last I heard, Lillian faced additional charges. Meanwhile, I focused on building a life surrounded by genuine love and trust. Sometimes, family isn't defined by blood but by who earns your trust and respect. And as for forgiveness, not everyone deserves it. Cutting off toxic people isn't harsh, it's necessary for healing. If you were in my position, would you have exposed Lillian the moment you discovered the first signs of financial abuse? Or would you have tried to handle it privately within the family? Was I too harsh in gathering evidence secretly before confronting her? Some say family loyalty should come first, while others argue that protecting vulnerable loved ones is more important than keeping family secrets. What would you have done? Hey everyone, I'm Thomas, a 29-year-old real estate agent in Chicago. And this beauty right here is mine. I stood on the porch of my new house, the reality still sinking in. 3 bedrooms, a sprawling backyard, and that vintage charm I dreamed about. Karen, my girlfriend, squeezed my hand. You earned this, babe, every single brick. I smiled, but her words triggered a flood of memories. 21 years ago, my world shattered. My parents didn't come home one rainy night. Sarah, my older sister, was just 14 when she stepped up. At least that's how she always framed it. Remember when we used to share that tiny room at Aunt Marie's house? Sarah asked, unpacking boxes with me. I nodded. Yeah, I remember. She paused, her voice heavy. I gave up everything for you, Thomas. My college dreams. My future. The familiar guilt crept in, tightening around my chest. I know, Sarah. I'll never forget what you've done for me. Hey man, this place is sick. Derek, my best friend since high school, strolled in carrying more boxes. Now a hotshot lawyer, he'd stuck by me through everything. He glanced at Sarah. How's Mike's business going? Her face stiffened. Oh, you know. Startup challenges. Karen and Linda, Sarah's oldest friend, exchanged uneasy looks. Lately, Linda acted strange whenever Sarah brought up money. Later, Sarah cornered me in the kitchen. Thomas, Mike's business is in a rough patch. Just temporary. Maybe a small loan. Sarah, I just helped last month. We're family. I changed your diapers, remember. Her tone turned sharp, the way it often did when she didn't get what she wanted. That night on the porch, Karen found me. Thomas, I need to tell you something. At the hospital. Sarah came by last week asking about my salary. Said she was my sister-in-law and needed it for a family emergency. What? Why would she? Thomas. Linda's voice cut in. She stood hesitantly at the door. There's something you need to know about Sarah. Not now, I said as Sarah appeared behind her, shooting Linda a look that froze her in place. Thomas, Sarah began, her voice dripping with sweetness. Mike and I were thinking, your guest room would be perfect for us. Just until the business picks up. I stared at her, the guilt and gratitude warring inside me. I'll think about it. But something felt off. Karen's words about Sarah's visit to the hospital echoed in my head. The next morning, I noticed some mail was missing. Bank statements and house documents. My gut twisted. Then Derek called. His tone was grim. Thomas, we need to talk. I found something about Sarah's past. By the time our weekly family call rolled around, Aunt Marie's speakerphone crackled with Sarah's voice. Thomas barely helps the family anymore. Thinks he's too good for us now with his fancy house. That's not true, I said, but my relatives had already bought her lies. The next day, Derek barged into my office waving papers. Remember how Sarah said she quit college to raise you? She didn't quit. She got kicked out. Academic dishonesty. Forged documents. It happened months before your parents' accident. That's impossible. She always said. She lied. Stop letting her manipulate you. That evening, I walked into my living room to find Sarah lounging like she owned the place. Oh, good, you're home. Mike and I were just deciding which room would be best for us. What are you talking about? Well, since you're doing so well, unlike some of us who sacrifice everything for family. Sarah, I never asked you to. No, you just got to live your life while I gave up mine. She gestured around my house, her voice rising. And now look at you, big shot real estate agent while your own sister can barely make rent. Karen stormed in, her face flushed. Thomas, look at this. She held up Sarah's purse, revealing stolen bank statements and house documents. You went through my stuff. Sarah shrieked. Thomas, control your girlfriend. Later that night, Linda appeared at my door, her face pale. I can't stay quiet anymore, Thomas. Sarah's done this before. Remember the Hendersons? She manipulated them into signing over their vacation home, promising to pay the mortgage. They lost everything. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I asked, my voice breaking. She threatened to expose my struggles with addiction if I ever said a word. But I can't watch her destroy another family. Linda's voice trembled as she placed a folder on the table. The next morning, a legal notice arrived. Sarah was suing me for my house. The claim? That she'd invested her life savings into my education and deserved compensation. She's trying to get ahead of the truth coming out, Derek explained, spreading more papers across the dining table. Classic manipulation. She knows we're onto her lies about college. Karen walked in, pale-faced. Thomas, your sister just posted online. She's saying you're trying to make her homeless after she raised you like her own son. And people, they're believing her. My phone buzzed. Another relative calling to shame me. The sister I thought I knew, the one I believed sacrificed everything for me, never existed. All those years of guilt, all the attempts to repay a debt that was built on lies. I'm not letting her win. I told Karen firmly. It's time everyone knew the truth. These insurance documents don't add up, Derek said, rifling through papers. Your parents' life insurance policy was worth $300,000, but only $50,000 went to your education. Sarah was the trustee. Where's the rest? Karen walked back in, laptop in hand. You need to see this. She turned the screen toward me. Sarah had posted tearful videos online, claiming I was trying to destroy her life. She even started a GoFundMe, asking for help to save the family home. Derek pointed to some bank statements. Look at these transfers. She's been siphoning money from multiple accounts, Aunt Marie, Cousin Pete, everyone. The doorbell rang and Linda rushed in clutching another folder. Thomas, I found Sarah's old phone. She handed it to me, her hands shaking. There are texts between her and Mike from last month. They're planning to sell your house the moment they win the lawsuit. What? My hands shook as I scrolled through the messages. Mike owed $400,000 to loan sharks. That's why they were so desperate. Karen's phone buzzed. Your cousin just sent me this. Sarah told them you're stealing their inheritance money. The whole family's turning against you. Not for long, Derek said, his tone icy as he pulled out more documents. Remember the college fund your parents set up? Sarah transferred it to her personal account right after the accident. She used your education money to buy her first car. The evidence piled up. Linda laid out photos of forged checks and threatening emails Sarah had sent to silence other victims. She's done this to everyone. The Hendersons, the Paddles, even her old church group. Always playing the victim while stealing everything she could. Karen called from the kitchen. Thomas, Mike just called the office looking for Sarah. He's drunk, ranting about bookies coming after them. He admitted they're filing for bankruptcy. As if on cue, my phone buzzed with another notification. Sarah had posted again. My own brother is trying to destroy my reputation after I gave up my whole life for him. Please help us save our family home from his greed. Karen scrolled through the comments. People are actually sending her money. Not just money, Derek said, pointing to his screen. She's collecting loans from half the neighborhood. They think she's helping you with medical bills or something. Linda played a voicemail. Sarah's voice crackled through the speaker. If you tell Thomas anything about the Hendersons, I'll make sure everyone knows about that night in Vegas. Don't test me, Linda. Classic Sarah, Linda muttered. I slumped in my chair, the weight of everything pressing down. She's got dirt on everyone. That's how she's kept this going for so long. Karen grabbed my hand. We've got something better than dirt. We've got proof. I straightened up. Get everything ready. It's time to show everyone exactly who Sarah really is. Courtroom showdown. The case is dismissed, the judge declared, her voice firm. Furthermore, given the evidence of fraud presented, I'm referring this matter to the district attorney's office. Sarah's face went pale as Direct presented the mountain of evidence, bank statements showing stolen insurance money, forged documents, and years of systematic theft. The text messages about selling my house to pay off Mike's gambling debts were just the tip of the iceberg. You think you're so smart, Sarah hissed during recess, her manicured nails digging into her purse, no doubt bought with stolen money. You're ruining my life. No, Karen stepped forward, her voice cutting. You did that yourself. She handed over another stack of papers. Remember your job at Midwest Insurance? They're very interested in how you process fake claims for years. Every single one has your signature. Linda testified next, bringing the Hendersons and 5 other families Sarah had scammed. The courtroom buzzed with shock as each victim shared their story. Mrs. Henderson, now in her 70s, broke down on the stand. She took our retirement home, she sobbed. The judge turned to Sarah. Ms. Walker, your actions are reprehensible. The judge addressed Sarah, his voice heavy with disapproval. These allegations are extremely serious. The pattern of fraud presented here is unprecedented in my courtroom. Before anyone could react, the courtroom door burst open with a resounding bang. Mike stumbled in, his expensive suit wrinkled and stained, reeking of desperation. They're coming for the house, Sarah, he slurred, panic etched across his face. The bookies know about the lawsuit. They found out we were planning to sell Thomas's place. The room froze, the weight of his words hanging in the air. Sarah's composure shattered, her mask of control slipping. Everything crumbled fast after that. Her GoFundMe was shut down within hours, flagged for fraud after over 50 complaints poured in. Her tearful videos, once designed to garner sympathy, backfired spectacularly as people flooded the comments with proof of her scams. The district attorney's office launched a full-scale investigation, uncovering an insurance fraud scheme that spanned nearly a decade. The night everything changed, Sarah appeared at my door one rainy night, mascara streaking down her face. She looked like a shadow of the sister I once knew. Mike left me. The bank's taking everything. Please, I'm your sister. You can't let this happen to me. I stared at her, the ache of betrayal overshadowing any lingering sympathy. You stopped being my sister the day you stole from a 7-year-old orphan. I said, my voice cold. Our parents would be ashamed. Karen, ever my anchor, uncovered even more evidence through Sarah's work computer. Years of fake insurance claims, all linked directly to her. Her company pressed charges immediately, vowing to help every victim recover their losses. She's filing for bankruptcy, Derek informed me over coffee. Between Mike's gambling debts, legal fees, and repaying her victims, she's lost everything, her money, her reputation. It's over. A final attempt. Sarah made one last desperate visit to my office, her eyes hollow and pleading. I raised you. I gave up everything for you, she sobbed. How can you do this to me? I shook my head, the final remnants of guilt slipping away. You gave up nothing, Sarah. You stole everything. My childhood, our parents' memory, the trust of everyone who believed in you. Every sacrifice you claimed was a lie. Her lips quivered. Please, I'm sorry. I'll change. Save it for the judge, I interrupted, leaving her to her fate. 6 months later, I stood in the backyard of my house. Our house, watching the sunset turn the sky a fiery orange. Karen stood beside me, her hand in mine, the diamond on her finger catching the light. Your house looks beautiful, she said, smiling. Our house, I corrected her, the weight of those words grounding me in a future free from manipulation and pain. Sarah now faced multiple fraud charges, with Mike having fled the country and left her to face the consequences alone. My family, finally seeing the truth, had reached out to apologize for believing her lies. My phone buzzed, a new message from Sarah, undoubtedly another plea for help. I deleted it without reading. Some betrayals can't be forgiven. Some bonds are better left broken. As I held Karen close, I felt only relief. The web of lies that had ensnared me for so long had finally unraveled. Sarah had taught me a painful but important lesson. Family isn't about blood. It's about truth, trust, and genuine love. And for the first time, I found that family in the one I chose. Hi, I'm Carla. Most people just call me Carla, simple and to the point, unlike my life these days. I'm 27 and the proud founder of Next Gen AI Solutions. Ever wonder what it's like to have a sister-in-law who might smash your face through a glass door at your own father's funeral? Let me introduce you to Ella Holmes. Her voice dripped with venom at our weekly family dinner. Jassy Holmes, she spat, like my success was a personal affront. My sister-in-law never missed a chance to take a jab at me. My company actually has working products, Ella. I replied calmly, though my grip on the wine glass tightened. We're revolutionizing healthcare. Dad, ever my rock, squeezed my shoulder. My little genius, he said with pride, even as the oxygen tube in his nose weakened his voice. Wait until they see your new cancer detection algorithm. Ella wasn't finished. She turned her daggered words toward my brother, Mark. Speaking of family businesses, honey, shouldn't you be more involved? I mean, Carla's making millions, and you're still pushing papers at the bank. Mark shifted uncomfortably, avoiding my gaze. I'm doing fine, Ella. Fine? Her laugh was sharp. Your baby sister is worth millions while you settle for fine. That's enough, Dad said, his tone cutting through the tension despite his frailty. I invested in Carla's company because she had the vision and drive. It's not about playing favorites. Later that evening, my best friend Emma cornered me in the kitchen. Watch your back, Carla, she warned. Ella's been asking weird questions about your company's security protocols. She's been hanging around the office too. Lucas, my business partner, confirmed it the next day. She tried to bluff her way past it, claiming she had documents for you. Dad was more pragmatic when I told him over coffee that Sunday. Focus on the product launch, he advised. I've updated everything to protect you and the company. Don't talk like that, I protested. The doctors said the new treatment. My brilliant girl, he interrupted, sliding a Forbes magazine across the table. My face was on the cover. Promise me, Carla. Never let anyone dim your light. Ella stormed in just then, Mark trailing behind her. She took one look at the magazine and smirked. Another cover story. Must be nice having Daddy bankroll your dreams while his own son gets nothing. I earn everything through hard work, I said firmly. Maybe if you spent less time obsessing over my success. Obsessing. Her laugh was cold. You strut around like tech royalty while we can barely afford our mortgage. Mark, tell them about your promotion idea. Ella, stop, Mark pleaded, his voice strained. We talked about this. This is my company, I said, meeting her gaze. And my achievements. For now, she shot back. Things change, sweetheart, sometimes faster than you think. Dad's coughing fit shattered the tension. I rushed to his side, helping with his medication as he gripped my hand urgently. Promise me, he whispered. Stay strong, no matter what happens. Always, Dad, I vowed. But I didn't realize how soon his warning would come to haunt me, or how far Ella's jealousy would go. The call came at 3:00 a.m., shattering the quiet darkness. The hospital's number flashed on my phone screen. My stomach dropped. Miss Matthews, the voice on the line said, your father has been rushed to the emergency room. He collapsed at home. I was already grabbing my keys when Mark called. Carla, I'm picking you up. Dad's security system alerted us. The hospital corridors seemed endless. When we arrived, Ella was already there, rifling through Dad's briefcase, which the paramedics had brought in. What the hell are you doing? I demanded, my voice sharp with anger. Someone has to handle things, she snapped, clutching papers like they were her lifeline. You're too busy playing tech queen. Put those down. Now. Before she could respond, the doctor arrived, his grave expression freezing us in place. Mr. Matthews suffered a massive heart attack. We're doing everything we can. Hours dragged by in the waiting room. Mark paced restlessly while Ella whispered furiously on her phone. I caught snippets of her conversation. Yes, I'm at the hospital. No, nothing's been signed yet. When the doctor returned, his face said it all. Family of James Matthews. My legs gave out as Mark caught me. I'm so sorry, the doctor said. We did everything possible. The morning after Dad's passing, Ella wasted no time asserting herself. We need to check his office, she announced sharply. Important documents. Our father just died, Mark exploded, his grief barely contained. By midday, Dad's lawyer, Mr. Peterson, called an emergency meeting. The atmosphere in the study was tense, the air heavy with unspoken expectations. Your father updated his will last month, Mr. Peterson began, his voice calm but deliberate. Ella leaned forward, her lips curling in anticipation. To my daughter, Carla Matthews, he continued, I leave 75% of Matthews Technology shares, granting her majority control of all business holdings. My breath caught. Across the table, Ella's face twisted into a mask of disbelief. To my son, Mark Matthews, Mr. Peterson went on, a trust fund of $2 million. $2 million? Ella's voice rose in a shriek. While she gets billions in company shares. Mr. Peterson adjusted his glasses and continued undeterred. Additionally, the mansion and remaining assets will be divided, 70% to Carla, 30% to Mark. This is ridiculous. Ella slammed her fist on the desk. She manipulated him while he was sick. The will is ironclad, Mr. Peterson replied firmly. Mr. Matthews was fully competent and confident in these decisions. We'll contest it, Ella snarled, turning to Mark. Tell them, Mark. But Mark only stared at his shoes. Dad's wishes were clear, he mumbled. You pathetic excuse for a son. Ella screamed, her voice echoing in the study. She's stealing your birthright. Mrs. Matthews, Mr. Peterson interjected, his tone sharp. Compose yourself. This isn't over, Ella hissed, snatching her bag. Her eyes locked on mine, burning with fury. Enjoy your victory lap, princess. Tomorrow isn't guaranteed. She stormed out, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. Looking at Mark's defeated expression, I realized this was just the beginning. The worst was yet to come, and it would be written in blood and broken glass. The mansion's grand hall felt suffocating as mourners gathered after the funeral. Dad's portrait washed over us from the mantel, his kind eyes now frozen in oil on canvas. Ella hadn't stopped glaring at me since the eulogy, her mascara smeared from what I knew were fake tears. As I made my way to the study for a moment alone, she blocked my path. Quite a performance, she hissed. Daddy's perfect little princess, right to the end. Not now, Ella, I said, exhaustion dulling my voice. Oh, but it's the perfect time, she sneered. Everyone's here to see your inheritance celebration. Emma, my best friend, appeared at my side. Let's get some air, Carla. Grateful for the escape, I headed to Dad's study, needing a moment with his memory. The sound of clicking heels echoed behind me. Running away again? Ella's voice was venomous. Just like you ran away with our family's legacy. I turned to face her, the weight of her resentment bearing down on me. You know that's not true. Mark worked for that company for 10 years while you played tech genius with Daddy's money, she spat. Ella, stop, I said firmly, trying to keep my voice steady. But her rage erupted. With a shriek, she lunged, slamming me into the decorative glass door. The impact was deafening. Glass shattered around me as my face hit the panel with crushing force. Pain seared through me, and I collapsed, blood streaming down my face. I'll destroy everything you love, she hissed, glass shards clutched in her fist, just like you destroyed us. Before she could strike again, Lucas tackled her to the ground. You're insane, he shouted as chaos erupted around us. Guests screamed, security guards rushed in, and camera phones captured the scene. Emma pressed her jacket against my bleeding face. Someone call 911, she cried. Mark's voice cracked as he looked at Ella in horror. What have you done? What you were too weak to do, she screamed back, thrashing against Lucas. Look at her, bleeding like the leech she is. Police sirens wailed in the distance, the flashing lights cutting through the chaos. Officers stormed in, weapons drawn. Everyone down, hands where we can see them. She tried to kill my friend, Emma shouted, holding up her phone. I got it all on video. Ella was cuffed, still screaming accusations. She stole everything. Our future. Our company. Security footage confirmed the attack. As paramedics lifted me into the ambulance, Dad's words echoed in my mind. Stay strong, no matter what happens. In the courtroom weeks later, Ella stood for sentencing, her designer clothes replaced by prison orange. Her arrogance was gone, replaced by hollow desperation as the evidence against her mounted. Assault, theft, fraud, and attempted corporate espionage. The most disturbing charge, the judge said, his voice cold, is the premeditated attack on your sister-in-law. Emma squeezed my hand as the security footage played, the glass door shattering, my bloody face, Ella's wild eyes as she lunged for me again. Your Honor, Ella's voice quivered. I was desperate. The gambling debts. Save it, the judge interrupted. The evidence shows years of calculated fraud. Mr. Peterson rose next, revealing the depths of her crimes. $2.3 million stolen through fake property deals, secret credit cards, and attempted corporate sabotage. Mark slumped in his seat beside me, destroyed by each revelation. I did it for us, Mark. Ella sobbed as officers led her away. She took everything. The judge's gavel fell. 15 years. No possibility of early release. As she was escorted out, Ella's mask finally cracked. Carla, please, she begged. I'm sorry. I traced the faint scar on my cheek, the memory of surgeons warning how lucky I was to keep my eyes still vivid. Your apology means nothing, I murmured, the weight of Ella's sentencing lingering in the air. Outside, reporters swarmed. Miss Matthews, any comment on the sentencing? Justice was served, I stated simply, stepping toward my waiting car. Carla, wait. Mark's voice stopped me. We hadn't really spoken since the divorce. His eyes, heavy with guilt, searched mine. What's left to say? I asked. I was blind, weak. I let Ella poison everything. His voice cracked, and tears spilled freely. I lost my sister because of her. You didn't lose me, I said softly, but trust takes time. I understand, he said, his voice trembling. I'll earn it back, somehow. 2 weeks later, I called an emergency board meeting. The room buzzed with quiet curiosity as I stood at the head of the table. I'm restructuring the company shares, I announced. Mark will receive 40% ownership and step in as chief financial officer. Gasps rippled through the room. Emma leaned forward. Carla, after everything. Dad built this company believing in family, I interrupted. Ella nearly destroyed that. I won't let her win by losing my brother too. Mark's hands trembled as he picked up the contract. I don't deserve this. No, I said honestly, but Dad would want us united. Besides, you're actually good with numbers when you're not being manipulated. His laughter was brief, but real. Weeks later, a Forbes cover sat on my desk. The Matthews siblings. Tech's new power due. Below it, Ella's prison intake photo served as a sobering reminder that karma doesn't miss. My scars have faded, but they tell a story of survival, growth, and choosing to rise above hatred. Mark and I rebuilt more than a company, we rebuilt trust. Last week, another letter arrived from Ella's prison. Like the others, it went straight to the shredder, unopened. Some broken things can't be fixed, but family, real family, is worth fighting for. Dad always told me to stay strong, and he was right. But he taught me something else too. True power isn't in destroying your enemies, it's in choosing to be better than them. Every Sunday, Mark and I visit Dad's grave. We share coffee and updates about the company he believed in so deeply. Sometimes, as I watch the sunlight dance across his headstone, I swear I see him smiling, watching his children finally become the team he always knew we could be. As for Ella, she has 14 more years to reflect on how her jealousy cost her everything, while the family she tried to destroy grew stronger. What would you do if the person who tried to destroy you lost everything? Would you help them rebuild or let karma take its course? In my case, Ella lost her freedom, marriage, career, and reputation. I chose to rebuild with Mark, but I still shred every letter she sends without a second thought. Some say forgiveness heals the forgiver more than the forgiven. Others believe toxic people deserve the consequences of their actions. What do you think? Would you extend mercy to someone who tried to destroy you, or is karma justice enough? If you want more stories about overcoming toxic family dynamics and thriving after trauma, hit that subscribe button and notification bell. Your support helps me keep sharing these real experiences. Stay strong, and remember, Sometimes the best revenge is living well. Hi, everyone, I'm Diana, I said, collapsing onto Sarah's office couch like the weight of the world had dropped onto my shoulders. Girl, you won't believe what happened at the family dinner last night. Sarah, ever the composed legal consultant who's heard it all, raised an eyebrow. Drama alert. Spill it, honey. What did the princess do this time? I groaned, the memory of last night's chaos still fresh. Rebecca, I said, the name dripping with disdain. My brother Mark's new wife was a walking storm in designer heels. She had the audacity to ask about Mom's jewelry collection. You know, the one Mom and I spent over 20 years building together. Sarah's face softened. Diana. I know, I said, my voice cracking just a little. It's only been 2 years since we lost Mom, but it still feels like yesterday. That collection, every single piece, has a story. Birthdays, anniversaries, those mother-daughter shopping trips Mom and I used to love. Sarah nodded, letting me have my moment before she prompted, let me guess. Rebecca zeroed in on something. I sighed, rubbing the wedding ring I never take off. Mom's sapphire pendant, the one she wore to my college graduation. Rebecca couldn't stop staring at it during dinner. You better keep those pieces locked up tight, Sarah warned, her lawyerly tone sharp. I'm already ahead of you. Aunt Linda called me this morning, practically in a panic. Diana, don't let that girl anywhere near your mother's things, she said. Something's not right about her. Sarah folded her arms. Your aunt's got good instincts. Has Rebecca always been this? Curious. Oh, please. The first time Mark brought her around, within 10 minutes she was asking about family heirlooms and vintage pieces. Her words, not mine. Before Sarah could respond, my phone buzzed. Another text from Mark. I held up the screen for her to see. Rebecca really loved meeting everyone. She was wondering if she could see Mom's jewelry collection sometime for inspiration. Inspiration? Sarah echoed, incredulous. This has been nonstop since their wedding 3 months ago. Mom's barely gone, and my voice faltered. Sarah cut me off, her tone firm. Listen, Diana, don't let anyone pressure you about those pieces. They're your connection to your mom. I know, but Mark's not himself anymore. He used to be my protective big brother, but now, it's like she's got him under some kind of spell. Last week, she even told Aunt Linda that some of Mom's jewelry would have been perfect for her wedding dress. Sarah leaned forward, deadly serious now. Your mom left those pieces to you, Diana. I've got the documentation to prove it. I nodded, fiddling with Mom's ring. Sometimes I sit in her old room, looking at her jewelry box, remembering how she'd get ready for date nights with Dad. She'd let me try on her pearls and tell me the story behind every piece. Those moments. Sarah reached out, giving my hand a squeeze. That's exactly why you need to protect them. Trust me, Diana. I've seen Rebecca's type before. In my line of work, we call them collectors of other people's treasures. I didn't realize then just how right Sarah was, or how much worse things were about to get. It all came to a head 2 weeks later. I just need to borrow it for one night, Diana, Rebecca purred, her eyes locked on Mom's diamond necklace. It's our 1-month wedding anniversary dinner. I hesitated, the words caught in my throat. Mark stood behind her, his expression a mix of pleading and impatience. Come on, sis, he urged. Mom would have wanted the family to enjoy these pieces, right? Against my better judgment, I relented. That was my first mistake. 2 weeks after that, Rebecca was back. The emerald earrings would be perfect for the charity gala, she cooed. Then it was the ruby bracelet for a work event. Each time, Mark pushed harder, making me feel like the unreasonable one. You've changed since we got married, Mark snapped at me one day. You've become so possessive. I bit my tongue, trying to keep the peace. But everything exploded at Aunt Linda's birthday gathering. When Rebecca walked in, my jaw dropped. She was wearing Mom's diamond necklace, the same one she'd borrowed weeks ago. But that wasn't even the worst part of this gorgeous piece. Rebecca gushed to our cousins, her fingers brushing the diamond necklace around her neck. It's been in Mark's family for generations. His grandmother wore it at her wedding. I nearly choked on my drink. Excuse me? I said, my voice sharper than I intended. That necklace was a gift from Dad to Mom for their 20th anniversary. I was there when he gave it to her. Rebecca's smile didn't falter, but her eyes narrowed. Diana, honey, are you feeling okay? You've seemed confused lately. She turned to Mark with a mock concerned expression. Didn't you tell me your grandmother left these pieces specifically for the eldest son's wife? Mark shuffled uncomfortably. Well, technically nothing. I exploded, unable to hold it in any longer. Those are Mom's pieces, she left them to me. The room fell silent. Rebecca's eyes filled with perfectly timed tears as she turned to Mark. I'm just trying to honor family traditions, she sniffed. Mark, she's scaring me. Later that night, as I sat in Mom's room, I discovered more pieces missing from her collection. The pearl earrings, the sapphire ring. Gone. My heart raced as I called Mark in a panic. His response floored me. Maybe you should see someone, Diana. First, the scene at Aunt Linda's, and now these accusations. Rebecca's worried about you. We all are. Worried about me? Your wife is stealing Mom's jewelry? Mark's tone hardened. See, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Rebecca would never steal. Maybe you're just having trouble letting go. I hung up, my hands shaking, and immediately called Sarah. They're gaslighting me, I cried. My own brother is making me feel like I'm losing my mind. Document everything, Sarah said firmly. Take photos of what's left. We might need them. The final straw came when I learned Rebecca was spreading rumors. Poor Diana, she'd say, shaking her head in fake sympathy. She's been so unstable since her mom's death. She's making up these wild stories about the jewelry. Mark's really worried about her mental health. That night, sitting alone in my room, I looked at the half-empty jewelry box. Tears stung my eyes as I touched the few pieces I had left. I won't let them take you from me, Mom, I whispered. I promise. Then Tom texted me. We need to talk about Rebecca. This isn't the first time she's done something like this. My hands trembled as I typed back. What do you mean? Meet me tomorrow. There's something you need to know about your brother's wife. You're not going to believe this. The next day, at the coffee shop, Tom slid his phone across the table. That's Rebecca, he said, his voice low, except back then she went by Rachel Bennett. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding as I scrolled through the old news articles. 3 ex-boyfriends, missing family heirlooms, manipulated bank accounts, mysterious online sales. She's got a thing for grieving families, Tom explained. She gets close to someone who's lost a parent, works her way into the family, and then, he shrugged grimly. Mark's not her first target, just her first successful marriage. How did you find this? Remember Steve from cybersecurity? He did some digging. Your sister-in-law has quite the digital footprint. Check the next link. My stomach dropped. There, on an exclusive auction site, was Mom's sapphire ring. The description read, Vintage European cut, family heirloom. Serious collectors only. That's not even the worst part, Tom continued. She's drowning in debt. Maxed out credit cards, a shopping addiction. She's been using Mark's accounts to cover it up. I called Sarah immediately. Within an hour, she had Rebecca's financials. 5 aliases in 3 states, Sarah confirmed. And get this, there's an outstanding warrant for her arrest in Colorado, under the name Rachel. That night, I found more listings online. Mom's emerald earrings, the pearl necklace, all being sold under different accounts with elaborate fictional descriptions. I've got her banking records, Sarah said over the phone. She's been laundering money through these sales for years. This goes way deeper than we thought. Tom texted again later. Mark's starting to ask questions. Rebecca came home with a new Gucci bag she can't explain. Let him start pulling that thread himself. The family dinner was already planned for the next week. Perfect, I said, touching Mom's wedding ring, the one piece Rebecca hadn't managed to steal. Time to end this, Mom's way. Everyone's in position, Sarah texted as I set the table. Rebecca swanned in, wearing Mom's diamond necklace, playing the perfect hostess. Oh, Aunt Linda. What's that old album you brought? Just some family memories, dear, Aunt Linda replied, her smile razor sharp. Actually, I'd love to share these photos now. She opened the album and pointed. Here's my sister wearing this exact necklace on the day she bought it. Rebecca's face twitched. That's impossible. This is a family heirloom. Funny you should mention family, Tom interjected, pulling out his laptop. Because I've got some interesting family photos too. Different name, different hair color. But definitely you, right? The police in Colorado would love to know you're going by Rebecca now. Rachel. What is this? Mark demanded, his face pale. But his voice wavered. I recounted, looking at Sarah as she nodded knowingly. Before Mark could respond, Jason stepped in from the hallway. Rebecca, or should I say Rachel, turned ghost white. "Remember me, Rachel," Jason said, his voice calm but sharp. "Or was it Rita when you cleaned out my grandmother's estate?" The room erupted into chaos as Sarah, Tom, and Aunt Linda laid out the evidence like seasoned prosecutors in a courtroom. Sarah presented the banking records, pointing out the trail of deceit. Tom showed the online listings, scrolling through page after page of Mom's jewelry, each piece painstakingly described for auction. Aunt Linda flipped through receipts and certificates of authenticity, her voice steady with righteous fury. "It's all lies," Rebecca shrieked, backing toward the door. But Mark wasn't listening to her anymore. He was staring at his phone, scrolling through their joint account with a devastated expression. "Our savings," his voice broke. "Gone." Sarah delivered the final blow, along with half your mom's jewelry collection, sold piece by piece online. Rebecca's defiance cracked. "You don't understand," she pleaded, her eyes darting around the room. She turned to Mark, her voice dripping with desperation. "Baby, they're turning you against me." Mark didn't move. "And like you turned him against me," I said, standing tall. "Made him think I was crazy, unstable." At that moment, the police arrived. Sarah had coordinated everything, the warrants, the fraud charges, the identity theft. It was all over. 2 months later, I sat in Sarah's office, signing the final paperwork. Most of Mom's pieces had been recovered, returned by buyers who had unknowingly purchased stolen goods. Mark, however, was another story. He lost his executive position when the scandal broke. Turns out companies don't like their VPs married to convicted fraudsters. He called me multiple times, left messages asking for forgiveness, claiming he'd been manipulated. I declined every call. As I touched Mom's ring, the one piece Rebecca never got her hands on, I whispered to myself, "Some betrayals you don't come back from." The headlines were a brief flurry of justice. Serial scammer sentence. Multiple victims speak out against grieving family con artist. Rebecca, or Rachel, or Rita, or whatever her real name was, got 8 years behind bars. More victims came forward, exposing just how deep her schemes ran. Last I heard, Mark was living in a cramped studio apartment, his career and reputation in tatters. He'd chosen her lies over his own family and nearly cost me my mother's legacy. So now I ask you, what would you do if your sibling chose a toxic spouse over you? Could you forgive them after they helped steal precious memories of a deceased parent? Hi everyone, I'm Eva, a nurse at Memorial Hospital. I've dedicated my life to helping others, but now I'm the one who needs support. Life wasn't always this messy. 5 years ago, when I married Derek, I thought I found my soulmate. He was charming, successful, and made me feel like I was his world. But that dream didn't last long, especially once his sister, Rita, became a constant presence. "You're skipping dinner again?" "That's the 3rd time this month," I said, leaning against the kitchen counter as Derek grabbed his keys. "Rita needs help setting up her new TV. You know she's hopeless with tech," he replied casually. "She's 38, not 80. There's YouTube for that." "Don't start, Vic. She's family." That's how it always went. Rita called, and Derek dropped everything. Last week, it was curtains during my birthday dinner. The week before, an entire Sunday spent rearranging her furniture. "I don't think this is right," Eva, Marina, my best friend, said during a lunch break at the hospital. "Derek barely lets you see your family anymore. He says they're too critical of our relationship," I muttered. "Because they see what's happening," James, my coworker, added, flipping through patient charts. "Remember when he made you skip your sister's baby shower because Rita had a dating crisis? And it wasn't just Rita. His mother, Jane, was in on it too. Rita just needs her brother, dear. You should be more understanding," Jane said at dinner one night, handing me a bowl of potatoes. "That was 3 years ago," I said, my patience wearing thin. "Family comes first, Eva," Jane replied, while Rita smirked, clinging to Derek's arm. "Right, baby brother." Later that night, as Derek spent hours on the phone with Rita, I tried to suggest visiting my parents. "Your mom always gives Rita these looks," he said dismissively. "I don't like how your family treats her." "They treat her the way she treats me," I shot back. "There you go again, jealous of my sister. She needs me." Standing in front of the bedroom mirror, I barely recognized myself. The spark in my eyes was gone, replaced by exhaustion. Marina's earlier words echoed. You're becoming a ghost of yourself. Now, as I sit at the nurse's station during my night shift, I watch Derek's phone light up with yet another text from Rita. Some emergency about a garbage disposal. I used to believe marriage meant being someone's priority. In Derek's world, it's a competition with his sister, and I'm always losing. You know this isn't normal, right? James said quietly, dropping a patient file on my desk. I nodded slowly, realizing he was right, but admitting that meant facing the cracks in my marriage, and I wasn't sure I was ready. Hours later, driving home through a downpour, my thoughts spiraled as fast as the rain blurred my windshield. Then it happened. A truck veered into my lane. My car spun violently, crashing into the guardrail. Derek, please pick up, I begged, leaving yet another voicemail. My ribs throbbed and my hands trembled. 911. What's your emergency? I'm on Highway 27 near exit 43. Please hurry, I gasped. As I waited for the ambulance, tears blurred my vision. Derek's voicemail greeted me every time I called. Desperate, I texted Marina. Eva, I'm on my way, she replied immediately, her voice cracking when she called me back. 4 hours later, lying in a hospital bed with a concussion and 3 broken ribs, I finally got a text from Derek. Sorry, helping Rita move her bedroom set. What's up? What's up? What's up? James was checking my vitals when Derek finally arrived, 5 hours after the accident. Baby, I'm so sorry, he said, his voice dripping with guilt. Rita really needed help with the move. You know how her back gets. I could have died, Derek. Don't be so dramatic. The doctor said you'll be fine. I got here faster than you, and I was in Boston on business. Marina interrupted, her phone discreetly recording everything. Moments later, Rita burst into the room, her dramatic entrance making the moment about herself. Oh my God, Derek, I feel terrible. If I'd known Eva was hurt, I would have let you check your phone, she exclaimed. I've been so stressed about this move, I'm probably going to need anxiety medication now. It's okay, sis, Eva's fine, Derek assured her. Just a few bruises, broken ribs, and a concussion. Actually, James interjected, making notes on my chart. Those injuries are quite serious. See, she's in good hands, Derek replied dismissively, turning his full attention back to Rita. So, about that living room set. I lay there in pain, helpless and watching. Marina squeezed my hand and subtly showed me her phone. I've been documenting everything for when you're ready, she whispered. This isn't love, honey. That night, as I drifted in and out of consciousness, I overheard Derek in the hallway. No, Rita, of course I'm not mad at you. Yes, I can help you arrange the furniture tomorrow. Eva? The doctors say she's fine. Just being dramatic, as usual. When James came in to check on me during his shift change, he leaned in close. I've documented everything in your medical records, the delayed emergency contact response, the timestamps, everything. Marina's got it all recorded too. For the first time, something inside me hardened. When Marina visited the next day, I asked her to bring me a voice-activated recorder. Bring it tomorrow, I whispered. I'm done being the understanding wife. As I recovered at home, I started combing through our financial records. The first red flag was the joint account, thousands of dollars missing every month. A pattern emerged: Rita's car payments, Rita's rent, Rita's emergency fund. Hey, babe, what's this $5,000 transfer to Rita last week? I asked casually over dinner. Oh, she needed help with some bills. You know how tough things are for her. Tough enough to need $45,000 this year alone. You're counting my money now. Real nice, Eva. That night, I called Marina. You won't believe what I found. Girl, I've got something too, Marina said. Remember Lisa from Derek's office? She told me Rita did the same thing with Derek's ex-fiancée, Jennifer. Convinced him Jennifer was cheating, she wasn't. Let me guess. Rita made it all up. Exactly. She's been playing this game for years. The next day, James introduced me to his sister Rachel. I'm a divorce attorney, Rachel said, sliding her card across the table. James told me everything. Keep that recorder running. And I did. Every dismissive comment, every questionable financial decision, every gaslighting conversation. The recordings revealed everything. I don't know why you're making such a big deal about the accident, Derek's voice played back. Rita needed me. At a family dinner, Rita sneered. My brother deserves so much better. Ava's just not family material. The worst came from our neighbor Amy. Derek told everyone at the block party that you're unstable, that you make up emergencies for attention. Marina helped me set up a hidden email account to store everything, photos of bank statements, text messages, and recordings. I even captured Derek and Rita laughing about my accident. She always exaggerates, Derek chuckled. Probably barely a fender bender, Rita added, her voice dripping with contempt. I played the perfect wife while collecting evidence. Of course, Rita can borrow more money, honey, I'd say with a smile. But behind the scenes, I was building my case. This is a clear pattern of emotional and financial abuse, Rachel said during one of our secret lunch meetings. The recordings of him downplaying your accident? Gold. How much longer do I need to pretend? I asked. Just a little more. We're building an airtight case. That night, Derek skipped dinner again. Rita needed help picking paint colors. I kissed him goodbye and smiled. Take all the time you need, I said sweetly. Little did he know, every word, every missing dollar, every moment he chose Rita over me was another nail in the coffin of our marriage. The perfect wife was keeping perfect records. I waited until Derek left for another one of Rita's emergencies before making my move. The divorce papers were ready, my new apartment secured, and every piece of evidence safely stored in multiple locations. You've been served. The process server caught Derek at his office. His panic calls started immediately. What is this? Are you crazy? Check your email, I replied calmly. I've documented everything. That same week, Rita's perfectly orchestrated world began to crumble. Someone tipped off the IRS about her years of unreported income. Those endless loans from Derek? Turns out she'd been running a small business under the table, dodging taxes along the way. Did you know about this? Derek screamed into the phone. They're auditing me because of Rita. As if that wasn't enough, his company launched its own investigation. They discovered Derek had been embezzling funds to support Rita's lavish lifestyle. Watching him being escorted out of his office, humiliated and defeated, was surreal. Divorce court was a masterpiece. My lawyer presented everything: the recordings, financial records, and medical documents from the accident. Mr. Thompson, can you explain why you gave your sister $45,000 while your wife was in the hospital? Derek couldn't explain. He couldn't explain anything. 2 years later, I'm sitting in my office, the name Eva Thompson, head nurse, proudly displayed on the door. Life looks very different now. Rita is serving 3 years for tax evasion and fraud. Derek, he lost his job, his reputation, and most of his money to Rita's legal fees. Last week, he showed up at the hospital. Eva, please, he begged. I've changed. Rita's in prison. I've lost everything. I need you. Like I needed you when I was lying in a ditch after that accident. I asked, my voice cold. That was different. No, it wasn't. Goodbye, Derek. I watched him shuffle away, broken and alone. Meanwhile, I'm thriving. I've got a Caribbean cruise booked next month, a promotion on the horizon, and friends who have my back. Marina and I had lunch yesterday. Remember when you thought you couldn't live without him? She said, laughing. Now I can't imagine living with him, I replied. The karma train hit the Thompson siblings hard. Rita writes to Derek, begging for commissary money he doesn't have. Their mother had to sell her house to cover legal fees. And me? I'm flourishing. Sometimes, the best revenge is living well and watching karma do its thing. To anyone stuck in a toxic relationship, document everything, know your worth, and don't be afraid to walk away. The view is much better on the other side. Another donation to the domestic violence shelter, James asked as he saw me writing a check. Yeah, I replied, smiling. Someone helped me get out. It's time to pay it forward. That's my story, from gaslighted wife to empowered survivor. Derek and Rita can keep their toxic family dynamic, behind bars, and broke. If you discovered your spouse prioritized their siblings' non-emergencies over your actual emergencies, what would you do? Would you try to fix the relationship first, or would you start planning your escape? Where would you draw the line? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If my story resonated with you, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories about overcoming toxic relationships. Your support means everything. Hi, I'm Linda. Trust me, you won't believe what I've been through. Living with my husband's family wasn't exactly the dream. Lucas promised it would be temporary. Just until we save up, he said when we got married 2 years ago. 2 years and I'm still stuck under their roof. I'm an interior designer, and a dang good one. My client list is growing and my designs have even made it into local magazines. You'd think my husband would be proud, right? Wrong. You're spending too much time at the office, Linda. Who are all these clients anyway? Lucas would grill me nearly every night over dinner. They're just clients, Lucas. You know I'm working on that new restaurant downtown. His mother, Regina, would pipe in as she passed the mashed potatoes. A proper wife should be home more. In our family, we believe in traditional values. Traditional values, I was sick of hearing it. Lucas's sisters, Amber and Kira, always found ways to pile on. Maybe if you dressed more modestly, Lucas wouldn't worry so much. Amber would comment, her eyes darting to my sleeveless blouse. I'm in my own home, I snapped once. Technically, our home, Regina corrected with a tight smile. Every time I suggested finding a place of our own, Lucas shut me down. Not this again, Linda. You know Dad's health isn't great. He needs us here. Conveniently, Richard, my father-in-law, would cough dramatically, though I'd seen him swinging golf clubs just last week. The breaking point came when I met Natalie, a coworker who quickly became my first real friend since moving in. Girl, you need to set some boundaries, she said over lunch one day. It's not normal for your husband to check your phone every night. He doesn't check it, I mumbled. He just glances at it sometimes. Linda, that's still checking, and living with his family, that's just asking for trouble. That evening, Lucas was waiting when I got home. His arms were crossed, his face tight. Who's Natalie? Why are you having lunch with her so often? She's my coworker, Lucas. We're working on the Morrison project together. You never mentioned her before. Are you hiding something? I took a deep breath, my frustration boiling over. The only thing I'm hiding is how miserable I am. We need our own space, Lucas. I love you, but this isn't healthy. His voice rose, sharp with accusation. What isn't healthy is my wife forgetting her family values. As if on cue, Regina entered the room, her tone dripping with judgment. Lucas is right, dear. You've changed. All this attention at work, it's gone to your head. Pride comes before a fall, you know. I'm not proud, Regina. I'm successful. There's a difference. I went to bed that night feeling caged, the walls of the house closing in. The next day, after an exhausting shift, I walked into the kitchen to find the family gathered for dinner. You're late again, Lucas muttered without looking up. Had to finish the Morrison project. Work, 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 Regina sighed. Maybe you should focus on your home instead. I clenched my fists. Lucas, I've been thinking. That new development across town has some beautiful houses. We should look. Not this again, Linda, he interrupted. Our life is here with family. Your family, Lucas, not mine. Richard let out his token cough. Son, your mother needs help with her medications. And my heart. They need us here, Lucas insisted, his tone resolute. They need you. I need my husband. I need privacy. Privacy? He scoffed. What are you hiding, Linda? That was it. I stormed out into the garden, the crisp night air biting against my skin. Stars sparkled mockingly above as tears burned hot down my cheeks. How had my life become this prison? Hey, everything okay? Jack's voice startled me. Just family stuff, I admitted, wiping my face quickly. The whole moving out discussion again. Jack, the only member of Lucas's family who seemed to understand, nodded knowingly. This family can be a lot. I get it. I laughed bitterly. Is it too much to ask for a little space of our own? He smiled softly. You know what's funny? Even when you're upset, you still look put together. Must be that beautiful hair of yours, like something out of a shampoo commercial. I managed a weak laugh, but the moment shattered as I heard footsteps behind us. Lucas had come to the garden, likely to apologize, but when he saw Jack compliment my hair, his face darkened. Without a word, he spun around and retreated. Later, in our bedroom, the silence between us was suffocating. Lucas's voice finally cut through, sharp and cold. Cover your hair. I blinked, sure I'd misheard. What? You heard me. If you're going to live in this house, cover your hair. My jaw dropped. This is insane. I've told you, Lucas, we need our own place. Then you wouldn't have to obsess over who sees my hair. My father needs us here. I scoffed. Your father plays golf every weekend. He's fine. His eyes narrowed, his tone unrelenting. Cover your hair. No, I won't. I crossed my arms, trembling with anger. This is exactly why we need to move. Your jealousy is out of control. He didn't respond, just turned his back to me. I sighed, grabbed a sleeping pill, and lay down, turning my back to him. The only way I could find rest in this house anymore was with medication. Fine, have it your way, he muttered. As the pill pulled me into sleep, I vaguely heard him pacing. The rustle of a drawer opening filtered through my haze, followed by a sudden, chilling sensation on my scalp. I tried to stir, to protest, but the medication dragged me under. When I woke, something felt off. My hand instinctively went to my hair. The flowing locks I had spent years growing were gone. In their place were jagged, uneven strands barely reaching my ears. I bolted to the mirror and screamed. Regina appeared at the door, coffee cup in hand. What's all this noise about? I turned, trembling with fury. Look at what he did to my hair. She tilted her head, sipping her coffee casually. Oh dear. Trying out a new style? It's different. Different. Lucas cut my hair while I was sleeping. Her lips pursed into a smug smile. Well, it'll grow back. Maybe next time you'll listen. I stormed downstairs, finding Lucas at the breakfast table, calmly eating as if nothing had happened. How could you do this to me? I demanded. He didn't even flinch. Do what? You needed to learn respect. Respect? You violated me while I was asleep. Amber, who had just entered the room, rolled her eyes. Don't be so dramatic. It's just hair. It'll grow back if you behave. I couldn't take it anymore. I called in sick to work, but Natalie showed up at the house that afternoon. The moment she saw me, her eyes widened in shock. Oh my God, Linda, pack your things. You're staying with me tonight. At Natalie's apartment, I broke down as she made tea. It's worse than you think, she said, her face grave. The Morrison Project. Lucas called them last week. He tried to cancel the contract, said you were mentally unstable. He what? And that's not all. Remember the Petersons? Regina's been spreading rumors at the country club that you're having an affair with a client. My hands shook as I scrolled through my calendar. Cancelled appointments stared back at me. It was him, I whispered. Natalie grabbed my hands. Linda, this is abuse. You need to document everything. That night, I ordered hidden cameras. While the family was at church, I installed them in our bedroom, the kitchen, and the living room. What I found made my blood run cold. Footage showed Regina rummaging through my drawers, Amber scrolling through my phone while I was in the shower, Kira photographing my personal documents, Lucas reporting my every move to his mother. Then came the damning conversation. In the kitchen, Regina spoke in a low voice. The hair was a good start, son, but she's still too independent. Maybe we should take her phone next. Remember how well that worked with Diana? My heart sank. Diana. That night, I scoured my email and found a chilling subject line. I was Lucas's ex. Hi, Linda. I saw your picture in the design magazine and recognized Lucas. I need to warn you, what they did to my hair was just the beginning. They isolated me, sabotaged my job, spread rumors until I had nothing left. I fled to Chicago. Please be careful. Diana and I exchanged messages for hours. Her stories mirrored mine. Regina going through her phone. Lucas canceling her clients, the family gaslighting her at every turn. Weeks of pretending followed. While outwardly playing the obedient wife, I secretly packed documents, backed up evidence to the cloud, and finalized plans to escape. Natalie secured me a position at a prestigious firm in Boston, and Diana revealed the family's darkest secret. The fraud goes deep, she told me. I worked in their accounting department. Richard funneled stolen money into offshore accounts. Mrs. Peterson's charity donation, it never made it to the foundation. Deanna's information was the key. I anonymously tipped off their largest client, and auditors descended like a storm. The morning it all came crashing down, Lucas stormed into the bedroom, his face contorted with rage. Did you do this? Did you trigger the audit? I looked up from packing my suitcase, calm for the first time in months. Me? I'm just your unstable wife, remember? The one you mutilated in her sleep. Regina barged in, pale as a ghost. They're going through everything. Good, I smiled, pulling out the divorce papers. And so will the court. Lucas's face twisted with rage. You ungrateful little. Save it, I cut him off, my voice calm but firm. I have everything on camera, the harassment, the abuse, those late-night family meetings where you all plotted to break me. Oh, and Diana says hi, by the way. The color drained from their faces. You can't prove anything, Richard wheezed, his usual bravado cracking. I tilted my head, feigning sympathy. The cameras caught you discussing the offshore accounts in the kitchen last week. Oops. The scandal hit like a tsunami. Lucas and Richard were swiftly indicted on fraud charges, and I moved to Boston to start anew. My lawyer made sure I got my fair share in the divorce. Half of everything Lucas owned before his assets were frozen by the court. Weeks later, Natalie sent me a local news link. The headline read, Bennett family business empire crumbles. Father and son face federal charges. I couldn't help but smile as I texted her back. Karma's a better designer than me. Diana flew in to celebrate, her laughter as infectious as ever. They selling the house yet? She grinned over a glass of wine. Yep. Regina and his sisters had to move into a small apartment. I replied, savoring every word. I heard Amber's country club membership got revoked, and Kira's fiancé called off the wedding. Apparently, his family doesn't approve of criminals. 2 years flew by. My design firm in Boston flourished, specializing in women's shelters and safe houses, spaces designed for healing and strength. My hair grew back, longer and stronger than ever, a living testament to resilience. Then came the call I'd been waiting for. Lucas was sentenced to 5 years in prison for fraud. Richard got 7. Their business was gone, their reputation destroyed, their social status obliterated. During one of Natalie's monthly visits, she asked, How does it feel? I ran my fingers through my long, flowing hair, smiling. Like justice. Regina tried to reach out once, probably looking for money. I blocked her number. The last I heard, she and her daughters were working retail jobs, their designer clothes and luxury cars long gone. Recently, my latest shelter project was featured in Architectural Digest. When the interviewer asked about my inspiration, I simply said, Sometimes, the most beautiful designs come from rebuilding after destruction. What would you do if your spouse's family tried to strip away your career, your freedom, and your identity, and actively participated in your destruction? Would you quietly escape, or would you ensure they face the consequences of their actions? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Abuse isn't always physical. It can be the slow erosion of your independence, confidence, and sense of self. If Linda's story resonated with you, share your experience. Your voice could help someone else find their strength. And remember, abuse thrives in silence, but power comes from breaking free. Hi everyone, I'm Amelia, and this is the story of how I transformed from the perfect daughter-in-law to the woman my in-laws wished they'd never underestimated. 2 years ago, I married Marcus Thompson, believing I found my happily ever after. He was charming, successful in real estate, and seemed to appreciate my intelligence. But I quickly realized I hadn't married just him. I'd walked straight into a den of pretense and judgment. Darling, that dress. Remind me where it's from again. Target? My mother-in-law, Victoria, would casually remark at family dinners. We really should take you shopping somewhere more appropriate. I'd smile politely, biting my tongue, clutching my master's degree in business like a shield. Meanwhile, Marcus would chuckle, oblivious to the constant jabs at my middle-class roots. You know, dear, Victoria once said, the Richardsons' daughter-in-law just redecorated their entire summer house. Such taste. Perhaps she could give you a few pointers. I'd had enough. Actually, I've been thinking about contributing more directly to the family, I said one evening. I'd like to apply for a position at Thompson Enterprises. The room fell silent. Richard, my father-in-law, nearly choked on his wine. How ambitious of you, Victoria sneered. The interview with Richard was even worse than I'd imagined. Sitting across from him in his imposing mahogany office, I handed him my resume. What makes you think you're qualified to work here? Being Marcus's wife isn't a skill set. I have extensive business knowledge and... Listen, dear, your job is to be a good wife to my son. Leave the business to those who understand it. That night, I called my best friend Sarah, fighting back tears. Can you believe what he said to me? Girl, you need to show them who you really are. You've got a master's degree and they're treating you like you barely finished high school. Marcus says I should know my place. His exact words. And what exactly is your place, Amelia? Under their designer shoes. Then there was Amanda, Marcus's sister, who treated me like a stain on her Louboutins. One day, after brunch, she cornered me. You know, Amelia, I always wondered what my brother saw in you. Now I realize you're just convenient, quiet, moldable. I'm more than you think, Amanda. Are you? Because all I see is someone desperate to fit into a world she'll never belong to. That night, I stared at my reflection, wondering how I'd allowed myself to become invisible. My phone buzzed. It was Sarah again. You're not going to believe this, she said. Remember that business show I'm producing? We need someone with your expertise. I glanced at my forgotten degree, then at the photo of my perfect life with the Thompsons. Let me think about it, I said, not knowing this would be the first step in changing everything. I never meant to find those documents. I was just organizing Marcus's home office when a file labeled offshore holdings caught my eye. The numbers didn't add up. Millions were being siphoned from Thompson Enterprises into shadow accounts. Marcus, we need to talk about what I found in your office. You were snooping through my things? No, I was cleaning. And know your place. I'm your wife, not your accountant. His face turned red, veins bulging in his neck. No one would believe a nobody like you anyway. A few days later, Amanda burst into our house unannounced. Oh my God, Amelia, you'll never guess what I just saw. Actually, maybe I shouldn't tell you. What is it, Amanda? I caught Marcus and Jennifer at the Westbrook Hotel. They were, well, you can guess. My stomach dropped. Jennifer, Amanda's best friend. The one who was always hanging around our house. I have pictures, Amanda smirked. Don't worry, I won't show them to anyone, Amanda said with a smug smile. Marcus and I have an understanding now. When I confronted Marcus about Jennifer, Victoria somehow found out and called immediately. If you were a better wife, Marcus wouldn't need to look elsewhere, she snapped. You're too focused on your silly career dreams instead of your marriage. I hung up without a word and called Sarah. I can't do this anymore. Amelia, listen to me, she said firmly. Start documenting everything. I'll help you gather evidence. And you know what? Start that consultancy you've been talking about. I'll be your first client. That was the turning point. I began working late, telling Marcus I was taking online cooking classes. In reality, I was crafting a business plan and meeting potential clients in discreet coffee shops far from our neighborhood. That's where I met Lisa. Your analysis of market trends is impressive, she said, stirring her coffee. Have you considered sharing your insights on a larger platform? What do you mean? I asked. I host Business Breakthrough on Channel 8. We're always looking for fresh perspectives. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Where are you? Mom's coming for dinner. Sorry, lost track of time at my cooking class. Well, hurry up, and Amelia, try not to embarrass me this time. I glanced at Lisa and then back at my phone. Actually, Lisa, tell me more about this platform. That night, Sarah called. Got everything documented. Marcus's embezzlement, Amanda's blackmail, the affair. It's all here. Just say the word. Not yet, I replied. But soon, let them think I'm nothing. They won't see me coming. I closed my eyes, mentally rehearsing my first TV segment. Soon, everyone would know exactly who Amelia Thompson really was. The divorce papers landed on Marcus's desk like a bomb. His face shifted from confusion to rage. You ungrateful little. Save it. I cut him off. My lawyer has everything, the embezzlement, Jennifer, all of it. No one will believe you. You're nothing without me. An hour later, Victoria's screech echoed through my phone. How dare you embarrass our family? I'm calling everyone in the club committee. You'll never work in this city. I laughed. Go ahead, Victoria. I'm sure they'll be interested in hearing about Marcus's creative accounting. Meanwhile, my consultancy was thriving. After my first few TV appearances with Lisa, the calls started pouring in. Amelia, your segment on investment strategies was brilliant, Lisa said during a coffee break. We want you as our regular financial expert, prime time, twice a week. Marcus cornered me outside the lawyer's office. I'll destroy you. You'll leave this marriage with nothing. Like how you're destroying your father's company. Those offshore accounts must be getting heavy. His face went pale. Sarah was ecstatic. Amelia, we're doing a special. Women Breaking Barriers. You're our headline speaker. But the Thompsons weren't finished. Victoria crashed my biggest client meeting smirking. Did you know she worked as a waitress in college? Can you trust your finances to someone so common? The CEO smiled. Actually, Mrs. Thompson, I worked as a janitor while attending Harvard. Amelia's insights have already saved us millions. Then I found it buried deep in Thompson Enterprises' internal reports. Their empire was crumbling. During a chance elevator encounter with Richard, I couldn't resist. Your son's been bleeding you dry. Check account series XG789. You're 6 months from bankruptcy. You're lying, he hissed. Like you lied about me being unqualified. Karma's interesting, isn't it? That night, Sarah called again. Remember that anonymous tip about corporate fraud? It's trending. Every network wants the story. I watched their perfect world unravel from my new penthouse office. Marcus's face dominated the news, not in a good way. You did this, his voicemail roared. I'll make you pay. I texted back, check tomorrow's business breakthrough. I'm doing a special on corporate fraud detection. You might learn something. A text from Amanda lit up my phone. You knew all along, didn't you? While I was blackmailing Marcus, you were building an empire. I smiled, thinking of tomorrow's show. The Thompsons wanted a perfect daughter-in-law. Instead, they got me, Amelia, the woman who brought their house of cards tumbling down. The next morning, my segment on corporate fraud detection went viral. The irony wasn't lost on anyone when federal agents stormed Thompson Enterprises. Today's top story: real estate mogul Marcus Thompson arrested on multiple charges of tax evasion and embezzlement, the news anchor announced. Sarah called, barely able to contain her excitement. Amelia, your episode broke all the records, and guess who sent that anonymous tip? Amanda, I said, unsurprised. Later, a final text from Amanda. I know it's too late, but I'm sorry. I sent everything I had to the feds. The pictures of Marcus and Jennifer, just the beginning. Jennifer, of course, was doing her best damage control on social media. I had no idea Marcus Thompson was involved in criminal activities. I am totally devastated by his deception. Right, like she was devastated when she was spending my husband's stolen money. Victoria's social fall was nothing short of spectacular. At the country club, whispers turned to open disdain. How dare you show your face here after what your son did? But we didn't know, Victoria stammered. Really? Your daughter-in-law tried to warn you. You know, the one you said wasn't good enough. Meanwhile, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. International clients, speaking requests, book deals. Sarah was handling the overflow. London wants you for a financial crime symposium. Tokyo's offering a consulting contract. Oh, and Richard's been trying to reach you. I saw Richard waiting in my office lobby, looking decades older, his arrogance replaced by desperation. Amelia, please, we need your help. Your expertise could save what's left of the company. Like when I offered my expertise during that job interview. I was wrong. We were all wrong about you. Name your price. My price? I leaned in. How about the satisfaction of saying no? That's worth more than any consulting fee. Marcus called from jail. Baby, I've changed. I'll make it up to you. We can start fresh. Sorry, Marcus. I'm too busy being just a housewife to take your call. The business news couldn't get enough. Rising star Amelia Mitchell's consultancy expands to 3 continents. Meanwhile, Marcus faced 20 years behind bars. Victoria made one last attempt, cornering me at a charity gala. We're still family. You can't just walk away. Family? I smiled coldly. You made it clear I was never family. I was just the help who married above her station. Remember? Sarah watched as Victoria slinked away. Amelia, you realize you're living every wronged woman's dream. I glanced around at the respect, the success, the vindication. No, Sarah, I'm living my dream. The one they said I didn't deserve. Later that night, a package arrived. Amanda had sent it, my old nameplate from the Thompson house, the one that read the perfect daughter-in-law. Attached was a note. You were never meant to be perfect for them. You were meant to be perfect at being you. I placed the nameplate on my desk, right next to my latest achievement award. A reminder that the best revenge isn't just success. It's succeeding as yourself, especially when others insisted you should be somebody else. The final stroke of karma. Thompson Enterprises' remaining assets were auctioned off. The buyer, my consulting firm. Not because I wanted their business, but because now, every time they see that old company building, they'll see my name on it. And me, I'm just getting started. After all, they always said I needed to learn my place. Well, I found it, right at the top. What would you have done in my shoes? Expose the fraud immediately, or play the long game, building an empire while they underestimated you? Sometimes, patience and strategy are more powerful than instant revenge. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hi everyone, I'm Jennifer Mitchell, and today I'm sharing how I turned my life around after years of financial abuse. Trust me, you'll want to stick around to hear how this ends. Honey, I need some money for groceries this week. I barely looked at Jimmy as he lounged on our leather couch, the same one he spent $5,000 on without consulting me. Didn't I just give you money last week? What happened to that? He asked, eyes still glued to his phone. That was for utilities, Jimmy, I reminded him. You know I track every penny in a spreadsheet you make me keep. Fine, he sighed, tossing his wallet onto the coffee table. Take $100 and keep the receipts. This was my life for 4 years. I had given up a 6-figure marketing career because Jimmy insisted that a wife's place was in the home. Funny how managing the home meant groveling for necessities while he spent lavishly on golf clubs and business dinners. One afternoon, Linda, Jimmy's sister, barged into the house, waving her hand adorned with a massive diamond ring. Jennifer, you won't believe it. Derek finally proposed. She squealed. We're having a destination wedding in the Hamptons, and Jimmy, you have to help me plan it. Anything for my baby sister, Jimmy grinned, already reaching for his checkbook. I sat silently, wearing the same jeans I'd had for 2 years, remembering how Jimmy lectured me about wasting money when I asked for new work clothes. Later, at Emma's boutique, a rare refuge, I vented. Emma, this is insane. I used to lead marketing campaigns. Now I need permission to buy shampoo. You don't need to live like this, Jennifer, Emma said, her voice low. It's financial abuse. But he controls everything, I whispered. I don't even have access to my old savings. At one of Jimmy's company events, Mark, his business partner, pulled me aside. Mrs. Mitchell, he began hesitantly. I hate seeing how he treats you. The way he handles the finances, it's not right. What do you mean? I pressed. Mark shook his head. Just keep your eyes open. A week later, at dinner with Jimmy's family, his father leaned in. Sweetheart, you remind me of Jimmy's mother. She gave up everything for this family. That's just how things are done. Jimmy beamed. Dad, Jennifer doesn't need to work. I provide everything she needs. Speaking of providing, Linda chimed in, Jimmy, I need help with the wedding vendors. The budget's around $100,000. Of course, anything for my sister's perfect day, Jimmy said, flashing his new Rolex. My hands trembled as I gripped my water glass. I thought about how I had returned a $25 book last week because Jimmy deemed it non-essential. But they had no idea what was coming. The breaking point came during another argument about money. You need to look presentable for my sister's wedding, Jimmy said, scrolling through wedding plans on his phone. I was thinking of buying a dress from Emma's boutique. It's just $50. Jimmy's head snapped up. $50. For a dress? Are you insane? It's a $100,000 wedding, Jimmy. I can't wear the same dress I've worn to every event for 2 years. He sneered. You're always after my money. You're nothing but a gold digger. A gold digger? I gave up my career for you. I asked permission to buy toothpaste while you're throwing thousands at Linda's wedding. That's different. She's family. You're just. He stopped himself, but the damage was done. A few days later, Emma dropped a bombshell. Jennifer, something doesn't add up. Jimmy claims he can't afford a $50 dress, but I just heard he bought a $155,000 watch. What? I gasped. There's more, she added. Remember that big marketing campaign his company did? The budget was triple what he told you. At Linda's engagement party, Mark cornered me, drunk on Martinez. You know what's funny? He slurred. Jimmy axe broke around you. Mark cornered me by the bar, his breath heavy with alcohol. Jimmy axe broke around you, he slurred. But he's got more money than God. Those accounts in the Caymans, genius tax move. My pulse quickened. What accounts? Mark's eyes widened as the weight of his slip registered. Without another word, he stumbled away, leaving me frozen, clutching a truth I hadn't been meant to hear. That night, with Jimmy in the shower, I sat at his laptop, the device he'd forbidden me from touching. His password? Still Linda's birthday. Typical. What I uncovered made my blood turn to ice. Offshore accounts, hidden investments, falsified tax documents. The man who nitpicked my grocery receipts was hoarding millions. Jennifer? Jimmy's voice boomed from behind me. I slammed the laptop shut, heart racing. I was just checking the weather, I lied, forcing a smile. The next morning, divorce papers arrived. The reason? Financial irresponsibility and excessive spending. The irony would have been laughable if it wasn't so enraging. I'm divorcing her because she's bleeding me dry, I overheard Jimmy telling Robert. Constant demands for money, emotional blackmail. I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel. Jimmy thought he destroyed me, but he just made his biggest mistake. He left me with nothing to lose. Look who I brought, Emma said, ushering a sharply dressed man into her boutique's back office. This is my brother, David Heun. He's a forensic accountant. David scanned the documents I'd secretly photographed. Your husband's not just hiding money, he's stealing it. These transactions. Classic embezzlement. Tears welled in my eyes, but I saved the real dramatics for Jimmy. Please, I begged that evening, can we talk about the divorce? I know I've been demanding. Jimmy smirked, convinced he'd won. At least you're finally admitting it. At Linda's wedding dress fitting, she gloated. It's about time Jimmy got rid of you. You never deserved him. You're right, Linda. I was so foolish, I sniffled, mentally cataloging every expense she mentioned for David's investigation. Later that night, Mark pulled me aside after a business dinner. I can't sleep at night, he whispered. What Jimmy's doing? It's worse than you know. He handed me a USB drive. Company records, transactions, everything. Jimmy promised us guaranteed returns. Catherine, one of Jimmy's clients, confessed when I tracked her down. Now our life savings are gone. He blamed market fluctuations. David's face hardened as he reviewed the USB files. Jennifer, Jimmy's been siphoning money from multiple accounts, including. He hesitated. What is it? Your father-in-law's retirement fund. I recalled Robert's proud speech about family loyalty. Meanwhile, Jimmy had drained his own father's savings. The Phoenix development, Mark revealed in another clandestine meeting. Total scam. The money went straight into Jimmy's offshore accounts. At least 15 investors lost everything. Emma helped me maintain the facade of the devastated wife. Just keep playing along, she advised. Let him think he's winning. I've been so blind, I told Jimmy over dinner, watching him gloat. You were right about everything. Well, I'm glad you're finally seeing reason, he replied, admiring his Rolex probably bought with his father's stolen money. The wedding's next week, Linda announced smugly. Try not to embarrass us, Jennifer. Little did they know, while they were busy selecting flowers and tasting cakes, David was compiling enough damning evidence to sink Jimmy's entire empire. Jimmy thought divorcing me would silence me. Instead, he'd given me the perfect opportunity to destroy him. At Linda's rehearsal dinner, I watched them laugh about my supposed gold-digging ways. They had no idea that in just a few days, their entire world would collapse. Sometimes, karma needs a little push, and I was ready to shove with everything I had. I now pronounce you husband and wife. The priest had barely finished when chaos erupted. FBI agents stormed into the pristine ceremony, their badges flashing under the afternoon sun. Jimmy Mitchell, we have a warrant for your arrest on charges of tax evasion and financial fraud. Linda's perfect Hamptons wedding unraveled in seconds. This must be a mistake, she shrieked, her white dress swishing as she stepped in front of the agents, arms outstretched. What's happening? Robert demanded, his face pale as he clutched his phone. Jimmy, why is my retirement account showing a zero balance? Mark stepped forward, his voice steady yet cold. The company's internal audit revealed significant discrepancies. Mr. Mitchell has been embezzling funds for years. All eyes turned to Jimmy, who was already in handcuffs, his gaze locked on me, furious. You did this, he hissed. You vindictive. Actually, his lawyer interjected during the arraignment days later. The initial tip came from multiple sources, including your own business partners. Within weeks, Jimmy's empire crumbled. The headlines were everywhere. Local business mogul indicted in multi-million-dollar fraud scheme. I can't believe you lived in my house while planning this. Linda spat at me during one of the court proceedings. Like you lived in your brother's house while he stole your father's retirement? I shot back. Robert hadn't spoken to Jimmy since discovering his empty accounts. I defended you, he told him, his voice heavy with regret. I told Jennifer to be more like your mother. Now I see. I taught you to become your father, a thief and a fraud. Jennifer, please. Jimmy begged during one of his jail visits. His eyes were sunken, his arrogance shattered. I'm sorry. The dress, the control, everything. We can start over. I smiled, calm and collected, like I started over with my new marketing agency or my partnership with Emma's boutique. No thanks, I'm done asking permission to exist. The divorce settlement was sweet justice. Turns out, hiding assets during proceedings really irritates judges. Jimmy's attempts to shield his money only strengthened my case. Karma's something else. Emma mused as we toasted the agency's first major client, Jimmy's biggest former competitor. All because he wouldn't buy you a $50 dress, she laughed. I adjusted my designer blazer, bought with my own money. The dress was just the final straw. He never saw me as a partner, only a possession. Mark now runs the reformed company with a policy of full financial transparency. Linda's second wedding was modest. Her new husband, I heard, believes in joint checking accounts. Jimmy, he's still serving his sentence, sending tear-streaked letters I'll never read. Meanwhile, I was featured in Business Weekly for my innovative marketing strategies. The interviewer asked if I regretted giving up my career for marriage. Actually, I smiled. Losing everything showed me how much I could achieve. My office now overlooks the building where I once begged for grocery money. Every time I glance at that view, I'm reminded, hitting rock bottom means you have a solid foundation to rebuild. As for that $50 dress, I now have a closet full of them. Because these days the only permission I need is my home. What would you do if you discovered your spouse was secretly wealthy while making you beg for basic necessities? Would you expose them immediately or play the long game like I did? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspectives. If this story resonated with you and you want to hear more about overcoming toxic relationships and reclaiming your power, hit that like button and subscribe. Your support helps us share more stories of triumph over abuse. Remember, sometimes the smallest things, like a $50 dress, can be the thread that unravels an entire web of lies. Hi, I'm Danielle. If you need to hear this, let me tell you something. Life has a way of peeling back the curtain, often in the most painful ways. That's how I finally saw the truth. Remember, presentation is everything, dear, Logan said one morning, adjusting my blazer with a little too much care. His hands lingered on my shoulders, firm and controlling. Mother thinks you should dress more conservatively for work. I brushed his hands away and forced a smile. I have a major client meeting today. I think I know how to dress for my own career. This was typical of our mornings in our polished suburban Boston home. From the outside, we were picture perfect, a successful couple with enviable careers, a beautiful house, and the admiration of everyone we knew. I was a marketing executive. Logan worked in finance, and together we were the golden couple. Or so it seemed. Over breakfast, I tried to keep the mood light. Your mother called again. She wants us to change our vacation plans to join them in Martha's Vineyard. Logan didn't hesitate. Then we'll go to Martha's Vineyard, he said, already dialing. Mother. Yes, we'd love to join you. That's how it always was. His parents dictated, and Logan obeyed. Frances, my best friend, saw the cracks long before I did. During one of our coffee meetups, she frowned at me, concerned. Your husband canceled dinner plans with me again because his mother wanted an impromptu family dinner. Danielle, this isn't normal. It's complicated, Frances. Family is everything to Logan. At work, even my mentor, Alex Torres, began to notice. Danielle, you've earned this project. Don't let anyone take it from you. But Logan had other plans, a female-led campaign. Mother thinks it's too aggressive. Maybe you should let Thompson handle it, he suggested one night, with a casual cruelty that left no room for argument. The breaking point came during one of those dreaded family dinners at the Barrett Mansion. I was stuck in a critical meeting with our biggest client when the text started. Where are you? Mother is waiting. You're embarrassing me. You better have a good excuse. Each buzz made my hands shake. Finally, Logan's last message came. You have 5 minutes to get here, or there will be consequences. When I arrived, the room was a frozen tableau of judgment. Richard Barrett sat at the head of the table, his fingers drumming a steady rhythm. Alina's lips were a tight, disapproving line. Emma, Logan's sister, stared at her plate, avoiding my gaze. 45 minutes, Logan said, his voice sharp and unforgiving. You kept my family waiting for 45 minutes. I'm so sorry, I began, still catching my breath. I was in a crucial. Enough. Logan's hand slammed against the table, making the crystal glasses rattle. On your knees. I blinked, unsure if I'd heard correctly. What? On your knees, he repeated, his voice icy. Apologize properly to my parents. Logan, please not here, I whispered, mortified. His grip on my arm was sudden and bruising. Do it, he hissed. The cold marble floor bit into my knees as I lowered myself. His hand pressed firmly on my shoulder, forcing me to bow. I'm sorry for my tardiness. Judge Barrett and Mrs. Barrett, I stammered, my voice barely audible. Mrs. Barrett, Eleanor corrected, her tone dripping with condescension. Really, Logan, her lack of proper upbringing shows more every day. After what felt like an eternity, Logan pulled me up. Now we can have dinner like a civilized family, he declared. The next day at work, I hid the bruises on my wrist beneath my sleeve, but Alex noticed. During a meeting, he caught my arm. Danielle, my office. Now. Once the door closed, the dam broke. Everything spilled out. The constant control, the daily calls to his parents, the growing physical intimidation. Last month's charity gala, I choked out. Eleanor told everyone Logan was fixing my low-class tendencies. She said some people just aren't born with proper breeding. Alex's face darkened. Call Frances. She needs to hear this too. An hour later, Frances burst into Alex's office. One look at me, and she pulled me into a fierce hug. Why didn't you tell me it was this bad? Because it happened so slowly, I whispered. First, it was little comments about my clothes, my job. Then Logan started checking my phone, claiming his mother was worried about my inappropriate social media posts. He made me change my passwords and began policing my contacts. My friends, my independence, my entire life slowly eroded. Frances had noticed the changes long before I admitted them. He's constantly correcting you at dinner parties, she said, her voice tight with anger. Richard keeps reminding everyone how his judicial connections can make or break careers. It got worse. Last week, Logan threw out my mother's old recipe book, calling it low class after Eleanor decreed it wasn't Barrett family standard. Alex noticed the bruises first. How long? He asked quietly one morning in his office. 3 months, I admitted. It started when I refused to quit my job. Eleanor said working wives are unseemly. Logan said I was destroying his family's reputation. Frances gripped my hand tightly. Has he hit you? No, I whispered. Just grabs, pushes. He says it's for my own good. That I need to learn. I wiped my eyes, the memory of the Barrett family dinner cutting like a blade. Yesterday, when he forced me to kneel, Emma looked horrified. Later, she told me, this is what they do. They break people who don't fit their mold. You're not going back there, Frances declared. But Logan. Will what? Alex's voice was steel. Use his father's connections. Let him try. I've got a few of my own. I stared at my hands, remembering how they trembled under Logan's grip. I don't even recognize myself anymore. They're erasing everything I am. Then it's time, Frances said firmly, to show them exactly who Danielle Williams is. The weeks that followed were a careful dance of planning, documentation, and discovery. Frances helped me set up hidden cameras in the house. Alex connected me with a discreet security expert who found tracking software on my phone, disguised as a family safety app. During a secret lunch with Emma at a cafe far from the Barrett's usual haunts, the full picture began to emerge. You're not the first, Danielle, Emma revealed, her voice trembling. Logan was engaged twice before you. Catherine lasted until she refused to convert to Mother's religion. Rebecca wanted to keep her career. Mother made sure both relationships ended. How? I asked, horrified. The same playbook, Emma explained. Isolation, humiliation, then character assassination. Mother had Richard use his connections to get Catherine fired. Rebecca's family business suddenly faced audit after audit until she broke things off. Emma slid a USB drive across the table. The household staff has seen everything. Margaret, our housekeeper, even kept a diary. There's security footage on here too, things you need to see. That night, I watched the videos, my stomach turning with every revelation. Logan meeting with his ex-girlfriend Lisa in the garden, a rendezvous Eleanor had arranged. Danielle's getting too independent, Eleanor said coldly. Lisa knows how to be a proper Barrett wife. There were more. Logan sabotaging my client presentations by accidentally deleting files. Richard making calls to competing firms, warning them against hiring me. Eleanor spreading rumors about my mental instability at charity events. Alex guided me in building a wall of evidence they couldn't destroy. Document everything, he said. Every threatening text, every voicemail. Save it all. The household staff became invaluable allies. Margaret confessed, Mrs. Eleanor tried to make me spy on you. But I've seen this before. My sister didn't survive her abusive marriage. I began quietly moving money into a secret account using France's address for the paperwork. Alex laid the groundwork for my professional escape, connecting me with contacts in New York. Your performance reviews, project successes, client testimonials, all backed up, he assured me. They can't erase your achievements. Emma helped me map out Logan's behavior. He always gets more aggressive before big family events, she warned. And Mother's surprise visits, those are reconnaissance missions. Almost ready, Frances said one evening, reviewing our growing arsenal of evidence. Just remember, act normal. Let them think they're winning. So I played my part. I smiled at Eleanor's barbed comments. I accepted Logan's corrections. I attended every Barrett family function, all while the silent storm of truth gathered strength. Then Emma handed me the final piece, old family videos. They showed Eleanor systematically breaking her own mother-in-law years ago, using the same tactics. Be careful, Emma warned. They're starting to suspect something. Mother mentioned having Richard's friends at the DA's office look into your past. I squeezed her hand. Everything's in place. Soon we'll both be free. That night, as I watched Logan sleep, I felt no remorse. The woman they tried to break was gone. In her place stood someone stronger, someone ready to strike back. The annual Barrett family retreat was mandatory, darling, Logan announced one morning. 3 days of family bonding at the lake house. Of course, I said with a practiced smile, hiding the thrill of knowing these would be his last words to me. The moment his car disappeared, our plan launched into action. Emma arrived with a moving truck while Frances coordinated with the security team we'd hired. The New York apartment is ready, Frances confirmed, helping me pack essentials. Alex's team expecting you by Monday. My life was extracted from the Barrett mansion in a matter of hours. I left behind only a single envelope on Logan's desk, divorce papers and a flash drive containing some of the evidence. The storm broke exactly as planned. Eleanor's frantic calls came first, followed by Richard's threats, but they had no idea what was about to hit them. Lisa, Logan's ex, was the first domino to fall. Eleanor's manipulations had finally pushed her over the edge. She went public with everything, the arranged meetings, the plots to sabotage their relationship, the years of Barrett family interference. I can't believe they're still doing this, Lisa told the social columnist at their Precious Country Club newsletter. They destroyed my life, just like they tried to destroy Danielle's. Richard's attempt to silence me backfired spectacularly. When he tried using his judicial connections to threaten my new position, our evidence of his abuse of power went public. Former clerks and employees came forward, each with their own Barrett horror story. Logan's company received an anonymous package detailing his pattern of domestic control and harassment. Already embroiled in a gender discrimination lawsuit, the board couldn't distance themselves fast enough. We do not tolerate any form of harassment or abuse, the company announced as Logan cleared out his office, his reputation in tatters. 1 year later, I stood in my New York penthouse, celebrating the launch of my latest successful campaign with the people who had helped me escape. To Danielle Williams, Alex said, raising his glass, our new global marketing director. Emma, finally free and thriving in Seattle's tech scene, joined virtually. You should see Mother's face every time another social invitation gets lost in the mail, she laughed. Then came the call I'd been expecting, Logan. Now living with his disgraced parents, he had lost everything. His voice was raw, almost desperate. Please, Danielle. I understand now. Mother and father, they controlled everything. I'm in therapy. I've changed. Just give me another chance. I let his words wash over me, the memory of that night at the Barrett dinner table flashing in my mind, his hand forcing me to kneel, his voice echoing with his parents' disdain. No, Logan. You had your chance to be better, to stand up to them, to protect me. Instead, you chose to become them. But I love you, he pleaded. Goodbye, Logan. Don't contact me again. As I hung up, Francis squeezed my hand. You okay? Never better, I said, smiling. Some people think revenge is about making others suffer, but I've learned the truth. The best revenge is living well, succeeding, and ensuring those who hurt you can never harm anyone else again. To living well, Alex said, raising his glass. To freedom, Emma added from the screen. And to justice, Francis concluded. The story has come to an end, but now I have a question for you. What would you have done in my shoes that night when Logan demanded I kneel and apologize to his parents? Would you have refused and faced the consequences immediately, or would you have played along until you could plan a safe escape like I did? There's no easy answer when you're trapped in an abusive relationship. Your safety has to come first, but your dignity is always on the line. Share your thoughts in the comments below. If my story resonated with you, or you know someone who needs to hear it, please like and subscribe. Together, we can reach more people who might be silently facing similar situations. Sometimes knowing you're not alone is the first step toward freedom. Thanks for staying until the end of my story. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next one. Stay strong.